Welcome to the Fabricators podcast, where we deal with everything in fabrication. Today, we're going to be meeting with Bob Farrell to talk a little bit about the COVID pandemic and how it's impacted our industry. Bob is well known for a lot of articles written in the Fabricator, inside of Metal Shop Magazine, and Shop Floor Laser. Let's go ahead and dive right in and see how COVID's impacted the fabrication industry. All right, so thank you guys so much for joining us on today's podcast with the Fabricators podcast. Today we actually have a guest who's going to be Bob Farrell. Farrell's with Farrell Marcom, who's a writer with the media for the fabrication industry. Bob has some questions that he reached out to me, and I thought that this would be a great topic on COVID and how COVID has impacted our industry. And so I just thought it'd be a great podcast to bring you all and kind of tell you what we're seeing from a state of the industry, how it's having an impact on our industry in general, and just maybe some lasting changes as we move forward and what changes we're going to see. So, Bob, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, Brad, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you had some questions for me, so I'll let you go ahead and kick things off, if that sounds good.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think we've heard a lot about. We all know how the COVID experience is impacting our lives with people working from home and all that type of thing. I'm not sure that's really a practical solution for most of the fabricators. Can you give me a feel for that of how things have changed in the fabrication industry in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're seeing in general with a lot of customers that we're talking to today is obviously fabrication is a very hands-on industry. So a lot of manufacturing and fabrication obviously happens in one location. You have to export out of that single location. You have customers that you have to provide a lot of products for. So manufacturing is obviously completely hands-on, and fabrication is completely hands-on. However, what we're seeing a lot of in our industry is individuals utilizing and leveraging technology, especially for their upper level management and the individuals in the office in general. So what we're seeing is a big impact where people are looking to work more and more from home, and they're leveraging technology such as software to do so. As you know, SecturaSOFT is a quoting and estimating software. And so what we're seeing is a lot of estimators being removed from the office and working from home. What we're also seeing from an impact is a larger skeleton crew inside of the office and inside of the fabrication organizations themselves. So a lot of estimators, a lot of upper level management, what they're doing is they're working from home, but they need to interact with their local devices more. So we're looking for more web-based applications, web-based solutions, and web-based technology that individuals are communicating. Even outside of the estimating software that we provide, a lot of individuals are looking more towards ERP platforms that are web-based, that they can have web-based access, and a lot of communication type applications that they can access. So a lot of individuals are asking us now about chat, are asking us about statistical analysis on what's going on inside of their shops, and are really trying to do all of this externally. So while they're working from home. And so we're seeing an impact where you have definitely the fabrication, the process itself is still happening on site. However, a lot of the office group are definitely working more and more from home and trying to figure out a way how we can both work together and be just as efficient. So we're hearing that a lot with this whole impact of COVID.
So you mentioned the estimating group, for example. Them in addition to accounting and HR and groups like that.
Yeah.
With regard to the estimating group, doesn't that require some one-on-one interaction or some information that different people may have around to put the estimates together? How's that work remotely?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of times what people are doing, kind of what I just mentioned, where they want to be able to chat or want to be able to communicate, where the fabrication industry, as you know, we definitely lag behind a lot in technology. And so other industries have figured this out. If you take a look at the medical industry, right? I mean, now you can hop online and you can work with your doctor real time. You can share video, discuss different things with your doctor. Same thing with the IT. IT has had chat and group share and different statistics that are automatically emailed or produced for different individuals that are in the office versus the people who are on the ground. A lot of international companies, things like that. And so what we're finally seeing is our industry kind of adapting to that. And basically it came out of necessity with the whole COVID thing. And so what we're seeing is rather than, the individual estimator working in the office and going out to the shop floor to kind of answer your question, what they're doing now is they're trying to figure out a way that they can share information digitally with the individuals out on the shop floor. And what that could be is in the form of either, a project management type tool, like an ERP software where they can take or tag different individuals and grab their attention so that they can look at different things such as prints. Let's take a welder as an example where they can share prints through a shared drive. Maybe you send a message through some kind of chat application, get that messaging out to their welders, have their welders take a look at a print, and then return that information. Now, that typically back in the day, that would have been back in the day, but before this whole COVID thing, what would happen is an estimator would grab their paperwork, run down to the shop floor, show them something like a print, and then get that information back and then go back in and produce an estimate for them. However, what we're seeing more and more is people utilizing and leveraging chat technology, WebExes, things like that, that they can reach out to them real time and get that information back to the estimating group so that they can turn around a quote or estimate extremely quick. And so that's the biggest impact, is connecting digitally rather than physically.
So what about, I do know that SecuraSOFT, it has got some automated quoting capabilities. How does that, I assume that would make the work from home that much easier?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's definitely a process involved. So a lot of quoting and estimating, just everything in fabrication in general, is a lot of tribal knowledge. And when you are able to utilize and leverage technology to remove some of that tribal knowledge, such as automated quoting software, yeah, you can definitely not only speed that process up, but you can also leverage more individuals. So more individuals can work from home. You put together some set standards. When you roll out those set standards, then those standards can be applied to individuals, and you could train people on software or technology rather than having to have a lot of that knowledge driven through physical interaction. Again, working with a welder, maybe rather than going out to your welder and asking the welder how long it's going to take to weld something, you can utilize a lookup table to drive how long that it should take to weld, or utilize machine tech tables to tell you how long it's going to take to weld. So a lot more people, a lot more of fabricators are now trying to figure this out, and this is quoting and estimating, but just in general, when you're taking a look at a lot of the information, such as material pricing, nesting, how much material a job's going to take, rather than going in and laying out and getting into your programming software on the machine itself, utilizing external platforms to drive that understanding of material and behavior that the would typically take place, on the machine floor or the shop floor itself. So it's a big change that we're seeing in this industry, and a change that I think should have come, a while ago. But with the whole COVID thing, we're kind of forced to make that change now.
So, you've got your finger kind of on the pulse of the industry a little bit. Things have been, I'll say, slow. For some, it's been much more than that since March. What is the state of the industry today? How much of a hit has the fabrication industry taken to date?
Yeah, what we're seeing, the stimulus package that was released definitely helped in the retail market. So a lot of our manufacturers, we have a really good customer that they make different products for side by sides and recreational vehicles. And what was kind of strange and during that time was when the market took a little bit of a hit with COVID, and as the economy kind of slowed down a little bit because of the stimulus package, what we saw was a big uptick in the retail space. So a lot of families were going out and looking, and I guess the other side of it too, I'm sure that had an impact, is they didn't have a lot of things that they could go do. So they weren't going out to movies, they weren't going out to restaurants, they weren't going out to the mall and spending money. What they were doing was they were looking for activities that they could partake in, and that they wanted to spend money on. So companies that were providing things like side by sides, outdoor recreational fun, boating was big. We saw a lot of uptick. Even we have one customer that makes wakeboard attachments for boats. That had a huge uptick. So you had this weird impact in the economy where the business to business seemed like it slowed. But what happened was, because of the stimulus check, the consumer to business actually actually seemed like it raised up for a while. We saw that as a big impact, and the other side of it too was obviously medical. So a lot of our customers who were providing medical devices, beds, gurneys, things like that, they had a pretty nice uptick, and so we saw a big uptick. The defense contracting stayed steady. Agriculture, that seemed to stay steady. Where you saw the impact the most was where business to business came in. So kitchen equipment, fabricators for kitchen equipment definitely softened because restaurants weren't buying, and they didn't have money to buy. The retail sector, so people that made things like shelving and end caps and things like that, definitely saw softened quite a bit because retail was down so much. So it was kind of a weird, a very strange fluctuation in the marketplace. So it kind of had a big impact on the business to business side of things. But you had some different organizations that actually had an uptick if they were providing to a consumer directly, and definitely those who were in the defense and the medical devices had a nice uptick with the whole COVID. So it's kind of a strange impact. It wasn't just an all over the board blanket impact that we had seen.
Great. Okay, one more question I have is, eventually we're going to get through this and things will get back to some sense of normalcy. What do you see anything carrying over long term, any of the effects, working from home or whatever it might be, as being something that may become permanent?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you take a look at again, kind of what I was just saying, with the way that things were progressing with the fabrication industry, I would always say from a technologically standpoint, we are, probably at least 5 years behind other industries, whether you're in banking, you're in finance, you're in healthcare. Really, we lagged behind quite a bit. And so what this really forced us to do with fabricators, it forced us to get with the times. And I think moving forward, you're going to see more and more people looking to technology, whether it's software, whether it's automated hardware, where they can run without a huge crew of people watching things run on site. So moving forward, what I think that we'll see as a big impact is more people wanting to work from home, more people wanting to work with web-based software, working with machines that they can program from afar, with monitoring devices where they can monitor their shop from afar, and really run more. We've always called it in this industry lights out. And what that means is, at the end of every day when we turn off the lights, can our machines still run? But moving forward, I don't think that we're going to be talking about at the end of the day, can our machines still run? I think it's going to be on a daily, ongoing basis if our machines can run without us sitting there next to them. And as I've talked to a lot of business owners, I've also seen a change in the industry as we're going through this whole COVID thing, but really over this last year, where you're seeing a lot of what I would consider, the boomers kind of regressing out of the industry and not really taking part in a lot of families are transitioning this over to the new generation or the younger generation. And I think that they want the same thing. So I think the impact of COVID plus generational change in the industry, we're going to have a lot more working remotely and a lot more automation being brought into the fabrication industry, where it's already been for a lot of these other industries, manufacturing, healthcare, as I kind of stated before. So I think that this really forced us into making this evolution of technology and evolution of our industry.
Yeah,
So I think that's going to be the big change.
yeah, that's a great point. I mean, this next group of fabricators basically grew up with technology, so it's much easier for them to embrace than it is for some of us older, you know, baby boomers who are retiring and so forth. So that's a great point.
Yeah, and I think that that's, what they, again, this has kind of forced our hand into it, this whole COVID thing. But yeah, they don't want to, sit on site. They don't want to have to sit there. I mean, there's really a couple of things they, the a lot of the let's say fabricators that have been around a long time, they have their legacy organizations that have been in place for a long time that they've serviced. They have really strong, tight relationships, and those relationships have kind of driven them into, I don't want to say status quo, but have really driven them into a very comfortable environment for their companies. And now you're having a new generation come in. Well, that generation wants more quality of life standards, so they don't want to be in the office for 60 to 80 hours a week. They want to be able to, they want to continue to work, and they don't have a problem with working, but they also want to know that they can do most of the things online. So a lot of times they want to go home and be able to still work. But the other side of it too is they understand the aggressiveness of companies now to lean out their costs and to continue to look at growth. And so they're trying to figure out a way to build on that. So they're looking at technology to do that, and they have to be more aggressive, and they're looking at new ways to shake up the industry. So again, I know we started this conversation around COVID, but with the changing of the generational change that we're seeing in this industry, it was going to happen sooner or later. And I think that this whole COVID thing just kind of kicked it off, that as the transition is happening, we must take part in the technological shift now rather than later.
All right, good point. Okay, well, thanks, Brad. Appreciate your time. Hopefully, everybody will be back at full strength here in a few weeks, couple months, whatever it might be. Hopefully, we'll get things picked up again.
Yeah, absolutely, Bob. And thank you so much for your time. And I look forward. Hopefully, we talk, soon. Hopefully next week there.